Hey there, everybody. Welcome back and Happy New Year. Really exciting video lined up today, at least for me, for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I got a brand new toy, which is this beauty that you're looking at, the RealAir Duke Turbine V2. It's actually my first dual engine prop aircraft that I've purchased for FSX. I'm usually more of a tube liner guy, but saw some pictures and videos of this thing and just thought she's too beautiful to pass up. And hey, if I'm going to learn turboprops at some point, might as well do it with this bad girl. The other reason why it's a really exciting video for me is because FSX Steam Edition just came out with an update yesterday. So it's the first patch that Dovetail has put out since the release of the original FSX Steam Edition, which already came with a wide number of fixes and patches and upgrades to the existing FSX or legacy FSX product, I should say. And this new one does do some more patches and fixes, but also adds some additional performance enhancements, just as we saw with the original FSX Steam Edition. So we'll go into the changelog here in a second, and then we'll go ahead and get airborne. So let's go ahead and start out with the changelog, just so we know what we're looking at. So we'll open up the Steam overlay here. And actually, we'll take a moment to talk about the Steam overlay for those of you who may not be familiar with how FSX Steam Edition works with the Steam interface. So what we're looking at right now is the Steam overlay, or the in-game overlay. And what it allows you to do is to access certain Steam features, communicate with your friends if you wanted to start a chat with them or something like that, access settings on Steam. You can actually play music while you're flying or while you're playing any Steam game. Probably the coolest feature, though, is that you have access to a full-blown web browser. So, for example, we're at KLAX right now. Let's say I wanted to access KLAX SIDS. I could open up FlightAware, and let's say I wanted to look at the we'll look at the KSFO RNAV SID, and I can see the chart right there. And all this time, I still have full access and control of my simulator. So you can see I'm moving the elevator there, my rudder. I can select or unselect my parking brakes. I still have full control of my aircraft behind the scenes while I'm sitting here looking at my charts, or I could look up my VA website and look at my ACARs there, whatever I want to do. So it's a really cool feature, and just kind of adds to the feel of still being connected while being able to sim. It's almost like having a little EFB. Anyway, so back on topic, we'll go and look at the changelog. So here you guys will see our changelog, and a couple of things to look at here. So most of them, as you see, are fixes. Networking issue resolved, some error reporting, learning center bugs. But there are two things that are actually performance enhancements. One of them being this: the improved vertex and index buffer handling defaults, as well as a few other things, to give up to a 10% frame rate improvement as long as VSync is not enabled. Now, I unfortunately did not have the old FSX Steam Edition still installed on my computer up until this morning. I was actually using P3D for a couple of weeks and kind of testing that out. I don't want to make this into a P3D review video, but make a long story short, I think the platform has a ton of promise. I think that it's visually very appealing, but without 64-bit, it's pretty much useless to somebody who flies cross-country routes and long-haul routes from one mega airport to another. It just can't handle the VAS with all the eye candy turned on. So I ended up turning down my settings with P3D, and it to a point, it kind of negated the whole allure of P3D to begin with, which is having that extra eye candy. So I uninstalled it, and now I'm very happily back on FSX Steam. Anyways, with that said, I was unable to test the old FSX Steam and the new one to see whether or not there's actually that, material change of that 10% frame rate improvement. And because I can't do a side-by-side, or I can't give you guys some, kind of scientific facts as to whether or not it's there, I'm not even going to inject my perception as to whether it's smoother or not, or whether it's gets more frames or not. I'll just say, why don't you guys try it for yourselves? That way nobody accuses me of, implanting a placebo effect into your mind. So that's cool. graphics change. They enabled trilinear mapping filtering by default. Graphics, an issue was resolved when you set your special effects to high, such as with the A2A 172 or 182 that has that custom landing light. Sometimes if you set your special effects settings to high, it would cause issues or some water issues, whatever. They fixed that. Here's now the second actual performance enhancement, and this one is really, really awesome in the little bit of time I've spent testing it. So they changed the default value of the max per frame texture uploads to decrease the time for high quality terrain textures to appear. Now, that's a fancy way of saying that they got rid, or largely were able to minimize, the texture popping that you see on ground textures. If you look at my previous videos, or even if you look at Frugal's latest video, there's actually a good example of it in Frugal's latest video where he's flying this exact same aircraft, the RealAir Duke Turbine V2. You'll notice as he's flying around, occasionally his scenery or his terrain will kind of disappear. It'll become like a black or a gray box on the ground, and that's essentially kind of a graphical bandwidth issue where the simulator is trying to catch up, I believe, with its buffers or something like that. And, it's unable to render that terrain information until it's able to caught up on whatever tasks it's kind of got in its buffer. So this change that they've done by increasing the max per frame texture uploads has largely eliminated that ground texture popping, and you guys will be able to see it on departure. So we'll look at that on our way out. Last two changes is some people were having problems with the baked-in high mem fix that they put in FSX Steam Edition by default. So they fixed that, it looks like. And then for new installs, they now provide default versions of the DLL XML and the exe.xml files to improve compatibility with existing add-ons, such as backwards compatibility. So that's the changelog in a nutshell. It's supposed to give you some higher frames if you're not using VSync. As well as should smooth out the texture or terrain texture popping, and let's see how it works. With that said, I'm going to show you guys my settings real quickly. So we'll go here, and as you guys can see, got all these set to maximum, right? 2560 by 1440, anisotropic filtering, anti-aliasing, DirectX 10, lens flare, light bloom, advanced animations, global texture resolutions all maxed out. Aircraft, everything's maxed out. Sceneries, everything's maxed out. I leave mesh resolution at 5 meters just because you end up, especially with Vector, with some strange kind of terrain and elevation anomalies, so I leave it at 5 meters. Water effects high 2x to once again minimize anomalies in DirectX 10. Land detail textures, I'm actually using ground scenery shadows. Scenery complexity and oxygen density is all maxed out. Weather 90 miles, I'm actually using the new Rex soft clouds. In the manual there, it advises you to keep it around this distance, otherwise you end up with like a cirrus layer cut off. So got that. Thermal visualization, such as natural detailed clouds on the cloud detail side, and traffic airline density is at 40. I'm using My Traffic 2013. General aviation traffic density is at 20. Airport vehicle density, along with FSDT's GSX, is at maximum. And Takeoff show aircraft labels. Alright, so we're reloading the sim. After I just changed that setting, I had to go back into my CFG to reinstate a tweak that was lost whenever you change any of the graphics options. I'll show you guys what that tweak is right now. The nice thing about FSX Steam Edition is that you really don't have to do any tweaks, but there is one that I did that I carried over from P3D, which is I upped my LOD radius to 6.5. I noticed that in P3D, when it's completely maxed out, the LOD is up to 6.5. FSX normally runs at 4.5, and since it's been running so well for me, I decided, hey, let's go ahead and just put some more eye candy in it and up the LOD to 6.5. So that's what we did, but like I said, that tweak got lost when I changed that graphics option, so I had to reinstate it, and now we should be good to go. She's almost done loading, so I'll let you guys know real quickly what scenery you guys will be seeing today. We're using FTX Global along with Vector. We're also going to be flying out of FSDT's KLAX, and we're going to be flying up north in Northern California, and we're going to be seeing Orbx's Northern California scenery, and then we'll be landing at FlightBeam's KSFO. So we've got KLAX, KSFO, Orbx Global, and Vector along with Orbx's Northern California. We're using Rex Soft Clouds and Rex Essential plus Overdrive textures, and I think that's just about all the add-ons. And then, as I said earlier, ground services from FSDT along with My Traffic 2013. So a lot loaded in here, a lot of stuff that would bring the simulator to its knees. And then once again, as you guys looked at those options, you guys see that these options are completely maxed out. These are the options that would bring regular FSX or even P3D absolutely to its knees if you ever tried them. But we'll see if FSX Steam Edition can handle it, and see if it's as great as everybody makes it out to be. So we'll go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead and slap on the batteries. I'm going to make things very simple for us, and I'm just going to auto start this thing because I don't feel like doing a tutorial on how to fly this aircraft. We'll look at it from the outside. You can listen to her. Alright, very, very cool. So, looks like she's pretty much ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and taxi our way on out here to the runway 25 right. And then we'll get on our merry way up to Northern California. Just a couple of things I'm going to do here to configure us first. Put on GPS. We're going to put the flaps on. We're going to put on the navigation and beacon lights. I'm also actually going to open up these oil doors. I have the realism settings on this aircraft turned all the way up, which means that she's very, very temperamental, and she will absolutely make you regret the day you were born if you do not manage her power settings correctly and her heat settings, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and open up those oil doors just to keep our oil temperature nice and cool while we're out on departure. So let's go ahead and throttle up. You'll actually see the RPMs take a while to respond. Relatively slow responder. When I taxi, I actually like to put the condition levers all the way to high idle. And you can see how quickly she gets going, though, once she does catch a little bit of inertia. And those props, are stuck to 500 horsepower turbines. So although they're very heavy and they're slow to respond, when they do start going, they carry a lot of power behind them and a lot of inertia. So here we are at the hold short point, and we're going to look real quickly at the checklist here. And alright, here. So we're going to look real quickly at the checklist here, and we'll take our power back down to low idle. Alright, one really, really cool thing about this aircraft that I really enjoy is that they actually decided to use the knee board that's in stock FSX as a means of housing their checklist and their reference. Now, this is my first RealAir aircraft, so I don't know if this is something that existing RealAir users have already had access to, but I absolutely hate the fact that, in most aircraft you gotta have an iPad at your table or some reference material at your table, when they could just throw it right here in the knee board and allow you to have your checklist and your reference information right there at your fingertips. So I think it's absolutely great that they did this and they integrated it. It's unfortunately a very underutilized part of Flight Simulator, and I look forward to other developers continue to do this, as obviously RealAir has, and I know that Quality Wings does as well. Alright, so we're going to do an abbreviated version of this before takeoff run-up. So we're not even going to mess with the fuel pumps. Our parking brakes are set. The fuel selectors, we'll put them on cross-feed for 10 seconds or so. Instruments and avionics are check. Autopilot check on, then off, and then we'll start setting our cruise altitude of 24,000 feet. Pressurization, we want to set our pressurization to 25,000 or so it should be right about there. Alright, and we'll look at our trim, so set takeoff range for 10. There we go, so she's at 10. We'll go ahead and put our fuel selectors back to normal. Flaps are checked and set, we're good to go there. Flight controls full, free, and correct, so we're full left, we're full right. We'll go outside and look at our elevator here. Elevator and rudder. Alright, very good. So we're looking good to go to me. We're going to skip the run-up. We're going to look at the enunciators are all good to go. Prop sync is off. Ice protection. Right now, we actually don't need ice protection. It's 25 degrees Celsius here on the ground. Even though it looks really gloomy outside, it's actually relatively warm. But when we get up, if we see some precipitation and we get up higher and it starts to cool down, we'll do that. So, looks all good to go to me. We'll go ahead and throw on our strobe lights and we'll taxi our way on out to the runway. We'll climb at 4,000 feet per minute to begin with, and then we'll taper that off. Our rotation speed is going to be about 105 knots or so, 102 knots. Our performance climb speed is 120 knots. So we'll try to achieve that as we're climbing on out here. And alright. Looks like we don't have any opposing traffic, so that's a good thing. Get ourselves nice and squared away here. Alright. Brakes on this thing are very temperamental. So I think we're right there on the center line. And we'll start our run up, do our landing lights on, and we'll hold down the brakes here. Just make sure we get the response that we're looking for out of our engines. And then we'll allow her to start to roll. Now, with there being so much power there in those engines, they are not something to play with, so you got to be very, very careful to kind of ease her in. I'm going to try to set takeoff for about 98% NG, maybe about 100% NG, and remember we're rotating at 100. So, pretty much there. At 100, we'll rotate. There we go. Start a pretty aggressive climb as we want to get to that climb speed of 120 knots. Start gear up. We're right on the money. We're right there at 99% NG. But, a nice climb going here. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and on our autopilot we'll do our altitude and our navigation. And climbing 4,000 feet, as I said. We'll hold our NT right where we're at. And so, as we were talking about the texture popping, let's go ahead and go outside and take a look at the scenery. So we'll look down here at the ground and see if we see any texture popping as we rotate around relatively quickly. And if you notice, guys, we really don't see any, which is pretty doggone remarkable. You know, when you consider the amount of autogen that we're looking at here, it's pretty remarkable to see there be no popping on these ground textures as we're panning around. And then also if we look up there in the sky, sometimes you'll see even the clouds pop, and you're not seeing the clouds pop either. So it's very, very impressive that they've been able to wrangle that. I, for one, am extremely happy, because it's always been something that's kind of broken immersion for me, and I think that they've done a really, really great job of fixing that. So we're going to bring our climb down a little bit, 3,500 feet per minute. Still allows us to continue to hold that 120 knot climb that we want. And so the things you want to monitor on this particular aircraft, there's really 4 things. So your torque, of course, which is the obvious one. Your ITT, which is the internal turbine temperature. And I think we can actually climb back up now because that went a little fast. Your NG, and down here you actually see these are your oil temperatures. And I'll tell you that if you ever want to blow up an engine on this thing, the easiest way to do it is to let this oil temperature hit 100. So you got to really, you know, do everything that you can to manage these temperatures, your torque, and your NG to keep this plane flying happily and not give you too much grief. So we're passing 10,000. Turn off the landing lights and the strobe lights now, and we should just be breaking through the clouds. I mean, look at those soft clouds. I mean, it honestly looks volumetric in FSX. Like, that is crazy. Look at that. Absolutely remarkable. So I'm a very happy customer of soft clouds, I'll tell you what. As we just kind of take a look around. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Beautiful soft clouds. I love them. I mean, look at that. Beautiful. Anyways, let's get back to flying, stop gawking. So, we're already at 14,000. I mean, this thing is climbing like a banshee. Just make sure our temps are under control. So our temps are getting a little bit hot, so what we're going to do is we're going to decrease our rate of climb to 3,500 feet per minute. I'm going to go ahead and keep my oil doors open. And we're going to actually pull back the power just a tad bit. That should help the oil temperatures drop. We're still climbing pretty doggone good, so looking very good on our climb, 125 or so. We're reaching 18,000. Dial us into 90902. Which obviously brought us up quite a bit. Now we're almost at 20, so we've only got 4,000 to go or so. Which is pretty cool. Let's check what our temperatures are doing here. Absolute beauty of an aircraft. I love her. I'm down to 3,000 now. Just to get that speed back up. I've only got 2,500 to go, so I'm not losing much time. A little more power. A little bit on the slow side, so 500. Really try not to stress these engines too much. It's got 900 to go, 800 to go, so we're just down to 2,000 feet per minute. Alright, very good. We're up here at cruise now. So, we'll let her pick up her speed, and just keep an eye on our temperatures here. For right now, I'm going to keep these doors open. Once I feel a little bit better about those temperatures stabilizing, we'll probably put them to half or close. Let me show you guys around the cabin real quick. So, these are all your different viewpoints in this aircraft. Instrument views, radio views, switch view, pressurization and temperature and flap view, fuel selector view. This is actually one of the passenger seats. And this is another passenger seat. I guess this one by default looks back and the other passenger view looks forward. And this is the other passenger view. So the table comes out. And I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want the alarm to go off, but there's something really funny that happens with this door. Don't ask me why I was testing it, but if you try to open up that door while in flight, it does something pretty cool, which is that it won't fully open. It just kind of shutters because of the wind, and that air pressure keeps the door shut. So it shutters, and it really looks like what would happen if you were to open up a door while in flight. Minus the fact that you lose pressurization, everybody would pass out in a few minutes. But pretty cool little animation. You can try it on your own time if you get this aircraft. And let's see where our temps are at. Our temps are back under control, so I'm actually gonna close these up. Make us a little bit more aerodynamic. And we're at a really awesome cruise speed. We're hauling, so I'm gonna go ahead and play one song, and then we'll cut it until we're about 60 miles or so away from KSFO.
You're now listening to Aerosoft Music.